Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
Hi, I'm Jack Barry, and I'm with Tony Gholz, and we're talking about some of the fine golf courses in Michigan, done by a couple of fellows from overseas. And we're right now at Port Huron, which was your home club.
I'm a building architect, practiced in the Detroit area for 40 years, in Birmingham and in Southfield. Did projects all over the world, but before I was an architect, I was interested in golf course architecture because of the fact that my golf pro in Port Huron was at Black River Country Club was Emil Beck. And Emil Beck was the founder of the PGA of America's golf school back in those days in Dunedin, Florida. And he was also an architect on the golf course architect on the side. So when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, I was learning the game under Emil, but I was more interested in watching him make changes to some of the holes on the golf course. And of course, at that point, that was the first time that I realized that golf courses didn't just happen. Somebody decided the bunker went there, somebody decided the green went there, and they should be in this kind of a relationship, So Emil I watched him do some of that. I didn't realize at the time that he was working from a master plan by Bill Diddle, the famous Indiana architect. And so before I was into building architecture, I was into Emil's work in golf course architecture. And then unfortunately, or fortunately, I had the opportunity to see a couple of buildings by Louis Sullivan and Frank Lloyd Wright. And that just changed. That changed the world at that point for me. And I became a golf course or a building architect, and went to Syracuse, went to Taliesin, studied at the Wright Fellowship for a year or so, and graduated all my degrees from Syracuse, and came to Michigan and practiced with Gunnar Burkhardt for 24 years. So. Had a kind of a side tour before I got back into golf course architecture.
Right man for golf then, right?
Ha ha ha! Yes, I am a Frank Lloyd Wright man for golf, and believe it or not, both of those came together for me. Robert Trent Jones was, when I was at Taliesin, Robert Trent Jones was designing the spring green in Spring Green, Wisconsin. So we were doing the clubhouse at that point. Later on, I did a lot of work for Tom Monahan out at Domino's Farms. We developed the building out there, and there were several times when there were going to be architects, golf courses involved. And so I got a chance to meet again Robert Trent Jones 20 years later, and met him, and Harry Bowers was with him. Harry
is a good friend,
and Harry's a Michigan guy too. Did the Rock, absolutely, for Monahan, and so I got a chance to meet with Trent Jones again. Later on, they brought up the Arnold Palmer Group with Ed Say and Eric Larson from there, and met Tom Doak as part of that organization before Tom Doak was Tom Doak, kind of thing. So, but just as intense and just as interested, and obviously a guy who was going to go. So anyway, back to how I got started here. The other thing that happened as a school kid growing up in Port Huron was we didn't play Black River for our golf team. We played Port Huron Golf Club. And in those days, quite honestly, with the omniscience of youth, we thought it was a rinky-dink golf course. And part of that was the fact that every single green was a circle. Every single green was a circle, a small circle in this big green pad. What I later learned words like green pad, and things. And the bunkers had no relationship to the greens; they were just over there someplace. And so at that time, we didn't think much of the golf course. Many years later, in 2001 and 2, the club brought in David Savick, whose firm Old Course Design at that time. David came up and had a chance to restore all the greens at one time, and the club had the money for that. And he spent weeks and days and months and years going over with a probe and trying to find where the greens were and so on the golf course. And by the time he was done with it, all of a sudden we had greens that were 2 and 3 times the size of what I played in high school, and all of a sudden the bunkers started to make sense, you know. So anyway, the Port Huron. So when we finally in 2001, finally 2002, we got a chance to play our new, we call it our new golf course, because all of a sudden the greens are, the scale of the golf course, the scale of the greens is much different, and at that point I started to pay real attention. And one day along about 2008-9, they were developing a 100-year anniversary program, and in that program they showed one drawing, green drawing in that program. And I had done enough research to know what a Harry Colt drawing looked like, and I said, this is it. And except that the handwriting wasn't exactly like Colt's. But the format was, and I talked to our general manager at the time, and I said, where did this drawing come from? And he said, we got lots of those, and I'll get them. Eureka! I'll get them for you. And I about fell off my chair. And about 2 weeks later, I got this envelope in my locker, and took it home. And pulled out, and turns out Port Huron Golf Club has 8 original drawings.
Folks, I'm with Tony Gholz here at actually at the Suburban Showcase, the biggest golf show in the business.